Good evening, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, adepts, friends, fans, family, and followers to Season 1, Episode 10 of Cuniculum Obscuritatis, the Obscure Tunnels or Tunnels of Obscurity, brought to you by Celestial Oddities Radio and the Coterie of Samil, Arcane Occult Order. As always, I am your host, Frater Crow.
And I am your co-host, Natasha Michelle. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure that you follow us on all the different platforms here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Spreaker, on anything else that you might be able to listen to us on. That way you can catch up on all of our past episodes and stay tuned for all of the upcoming ones, as well as help move us up in the podcast rankings so that other people can find the content.
And if you are listening out there, whether live, streaming after the fact, or downloading it to your device for on the go, we do thank you for your patronage and support. If you're listening live, you can leave a comment from wherever you're tuning in from. And if things are working right, they will come through on our end. We will throw them up on the screen. We will read them off and interact with you. This is not only our show, it is certainly your show as well. And we love to interact with you. So please feel free to engage with us. We know for the last couple months that it has not been working correctly, and only certain pages are allowing comments to come through. I believe I figured it out. So if anyone's leaving comments on the Frater Crow Facebook and you see me throwing up your comments, please let me know so I'm assured that it is actually working, because it has been a battle for quite a while. And I do feel confident that tonight's episode is the first episode that it is back on track. So thank you. If you missed any of our past episodes, as Natasha said, make sure you go back. We have 13 episodes planned this season. Tonight is number 10. So we have 3 more after tonight. We are wrapping up season 1, and sometime down the road, probably about a half a year from now, we'll kick back in with the next season. We're going to make you wait for it. We've given you the bare necessities of understanding practice, understanding yourself, and building yourself up from the ground up. And then next season, we are going to be jumping into a lot more deep content with conjuring spirits, with different practices and how that works. So we have a lot planned for you guys, but we didn't want to just do it as an endless season. We do want to break it up. That season number 1 is the basics. Season number 2 is getting a lot more gritty. And then season number 3 would probably be very, very deep, hardcore workings if we decide to do the season 3. So we shall see.
We're incredibly busy, so we need a break here and there.
We do.
Cut the seasons up.
Addie says, hello, everyone. And Yaya Donna Morche says, buon noche. And we have, I will have to catch up. You will have to catch up, brother, whenever you get a chance. All right. So tonight's episode is going to be about the psychology of the 7 stages of initiation as defined by Don Webb. And Natasha is going to run this episode mostly. I will give input here and there throughout it, but it is a very important episode to understand these psychological principles of initiation, what that means, why we go through them, how you might even notice parts of this in your everyday life as an occultist, where you say, oh, wait a second, I've gone through stage 1 and 2. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, and it's approaching, but you'll be able to recognize them more easily and what they mean to you. And the big thing to understand is it's not always just one time. Sometimes you might go through the circle of these and then start over again. You're like, oh shit, I'm going through it again. A lot of things do run full circle. So before we get into that, we do want to go ahead and jump into our start of the prayer, as we do every single episode. Good evening, Kelvin. Throw your comment up there. Trevor says, hi guys, today is Stacy Dunkel's birthday. Happy birthday, Stacy. And big old 4-0. It's the big dirty, not the dirty 30, the what do they call the 40?
I don't know if they have a name for the 40.
I don't know. We're gonna make up on
Fabulous 40, Stacy. Fabulous 40.
Sure, fabulous 40. I like it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you guys would like to join me, in the name of Samael, Cain, and Lilith, we call out to you, O Lord, Nakashalak, our Savior and Father. Let us continue to be unbendable, unbreakable pillars of the eternal infernal black flame, soldiers and emissaries of the black light of divinity. You who is the true God existing in the void place of chaos, before the creation of the cosmos, which gave form to force, bringing only suffering and death. blanketed with the illusion of what the Claiborne call living, encased in fragile flesh, falling victims to their own debased hungers, the cattle stand in their own prisons, singing songs of freedom. The blind bastard sons and daughters bow to their blind bastard God. Let us never be mistaken for their ilk. Let us serve you diligently and with honor. Let our knees not falter and allow our minds to remain sharp and clear for the battles and wars that we shall wage in your name. Life after life we march to your drum until we have won and all is returned back to silence. We are the beacons of hope, the lighthouses of knowledge. No matter the darkness, our wisdom will shine, for we are the messengers. We are the crows. Our cause will be heard to the ending of time. We are the sons and daughters of darkness. The Natasha Locker is with us. We shall never fear.
And as always, we will follow the prayer up with the mission statement for the Coterie of Samil. The following is the mission statement of the cult being a collective understanding of lost teachings. Number 1, to honor, praise, and uphold the work of our other God, the Natasha Locker. Number 2, to honor, praise, and know the Clephotic Elohim, working alongside them to gain gnosis and shape the currents of our own lives. Number 3, the intense and continuous study and practice of diabolism, necromancy, and left-hand path mysticism. Number 4, work completed both in and out of the temple, individually and as a cult, toward a return to Ein and spiritual immortality in nothingness. Number 5, to reside in a physical manifestation, that while it may be incarnated in a prison, it is a prison crafted to our standards and our desires. Number 6, to uphold the authority and integrity of one's own moral code while remaining a wolf in a world filled with sheep. Number 7, to openly shine and fan our own black flames, giving the opportunity and inspiration for those so inclined to recognize and feed their own. Number 8, to burn as torches in the darkness so that those worthy may be guided by them, finding their inner strength and embodying what it means to rise to their own power. And number 9, not to obtain or draw in followers, but to encourage mysticism, free thought, dedication, breaking of chains, and questioning everything, including us.
You heard it, folks. So if that resonates with you, feel free to follow those 9 tenets. Feel free to use our prayer. Many have reached out to me over time and asked for the prayer to have as part of their daily practice, including this morning. I got a request for that prayer. So it has become quite common for people to want to resonate with
Awesome.
that. So
I
that's
love
great.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. People have been, I've sent it out to like a dozen or so at this point. So if it resonates with you, feel free to reach out to us and we'll get that over to you. Like I said, if you haven't catched our, I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say over here. If you haven't caught our past episodes, feel free to go back and check those out so you don't miss anything this season, as they really are individual, but also very much linking to one another in their own specific way. And before we go any further and you jump into this, Natasha, I really just want to say congratulations, because this is working tonight and the comments are coming through. So congratulations to you, congratulations to me, and to all the listeners out there. It's finally fixed. Your comments are coming through from the Fader.
I'm so excited.
And from the Knights of Nephilim and some of the other ones coming through. So I'm finally seeing the comments.
That's awesome.
So kick us off.
All right. Let's talk about Don Webb's thoughts on the 7 stages of initiation. We're going to go over some base points before we get straight into them. I do think that it was semi-interesting that we're choosing this week to do this topic. It seemed to flow together with a lot of things going on in our lives. But when I'm talking about initiation through Don Webb's system here, I'm not talking about initiation specifically into a certain school or a mastery or program or path. I'm talking initiation into the larger left-hand path as a whole. So keep that in mind when we're going over it. For anybody that's interested in that book, if I don't knock my desk over, this is the book itself. It's not a thick book, but it is a packed book. As with just about any book on left-hand path mysticism, I will pick and choose what I accept out of it. So some things in there, not fully on board with, others I am. You guys will be able to see if you enjoy his view on the psychology of all of it. So you hear the word initiation a lot in the occult, and it can mean different things. So you can have initiation into certain practices, both closed and open practices have initiations into them. Initiation through people, people are doing the initiating for you, or initiation through the spirits themselves. Self-initiations into practices, or just self-initiating as a witch, so to speak, like I decided to do when I was 17. And the one thing that all of them have in common, in my opinion, or one way that you can sum up initiation, is it is a trial by fire. You, in some way or another, get thrown to the fire, and you either get burnt to ash and you don't go any farther, or you come out of it and you're able to move through that process, integrate it into your life, etc. So back in the day, there were the mystery schools, right? And a multitude of different orders obviously still exist. But the basis of all of that teaching was sovereignty. So it was the you govern you principle. And we're not going to get any farther into the concept of sovereignty tonight, because that could really be a whole episode. But basically, it's you governing you, right? So some were only open to certain bloodlines, others to whomever could prove themselves. But Webb makes a point that I agree with, which is that a school itself of thought shouldn't be simply like teaching magic. And it shouldn't simply teach philosophy. It should add many other things to it. Esotericism, psychology, but also the daily life tools for self-transformation. And I thought that that was important because I think that, as you guys see from our past episodes, that is something that we were really pushing, is those daily life tools, all those 4 different stages, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So he also goes on to say that if you find a school, and this is important, it's a red flag, claiming to be all of those things, everything that you possibly need in the world for your teachings, for your growth, for your learning, you should run, not walk from it. There are things that can be gained and added to your arsenal from many different directions. Schools should also be 3 of these things. 1, semi-hard to get into. That doesn't mean that they're not accepting people or it's impossible to gain access to, but it shouldn't just be you send in your $25 and you get a certificate back. You know what I mean? You should be doing something. You should be proving your worth, and you should be proving what you are able to accomplish.
So
It
no,
should also,
so
go
no
ahead.
Church of Satan in
Yep.
Satanic Temple, guys, because
Mhm.
you can send in your $50 or $100 and they'll send you your fucking plaque.
I'm pretty sure it's literally 25, because that's why I
I
said
don't know.
25.
I know that some of them are more expensive than others, but I'm not saying that those factions aren't out there, but I'm saying pretty much that's it. It's a mail order initiation. You send in your
Correct.
25 or $50 and you're a member, and you can go around and gloat and be like, yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Um, and I've lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so the second one, they should stress that your life is your battlefield. That is where you are the player, you are the creator, you are doing all of these things. It's your life, not just your memory and your regurgitation skills, right? And third, they should be able to, at some point, even if only virtually, meet you face to face. You should see these people. These should not just be communication with somebody that you have absolutely no idea who they are. Because especially nowadays, that's obviously very easy to manipulate. So, at its core, initiation is self-change. It's the process of the self-change. It's a process of you acknowledging and discovering your inherent patterns, but then you're able to manipulate your life's learning, your circumstance, and action to elevate those patterns to the fullest potential. So it's being able to take a very cold, hard look at yourself in the mirror, see those patterns that are already ingrained, which we'll talk about in the first stage, but then be able to start to mold them, to start to shape them into what it is that you want your life to look like and you want yourself to look like. So we've discussed on here, and I think with the cult in general, the difference between right-hand path and left-hand path. Very simply put, yes, Vicky, shadow work. Very simply put, right-hand path is thy will be done. It's throwing your hands up to the sky and saying, you know, do what you will. Left-hand path is my will be done. It's taking the initiative, the control, the creatorship, the ownership of your own life. As Webb puts it, right-hand path looks for pathways to submit to. Left-hand path is going to look for pathways that you can grow in. Now, growth itself is not always comfortable. In fact, it honestly is rarely comfortable. And if it's uncomfortable, it's kind of how you know it's working. But that halts a lot of people from following through with it. So if it's self-change, there has to be some psychological aspects, right? As that's obviously one area of study. For me, I really enjoyed Webb's 7 stages of that. And when I read them, I could see them reflected in my own life. And it was kind of a little like, are you paying attention moment back a couple years ago when I read it. So let's go into them. Do you want to throw up any of those comments before I start?
I think all of them are caught up at this
good?
point. Yeah, I think my dad had jumped on here. Pops in from time to time. He says, "I love the shroom chart." Thanks, Dad. Yep, the fly agaric toadstools, the Amanita muscaria family. This guy, I guess you guys can't see my mouse. This guy right here will kill you pretty quickly. This guy right here will take you to the devil. So it's about knowing which is which. This one dead. This one devil. Dead devil. Dead devil. Which one do you want to go to?
You need a pointer stick. We'll do a lesson on mushrooms.
Yeah, we'll do lessons on fly ointments and dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight.
Yeah, that's not a bad episode.
Not at all.
But we'll continue, or we'll go off on a tangent.
Please do.
All right. First stage, wandering. So wandering is like pretty much from the time you come out of the womb and you start going through life, right? This is birth on. The initiate is basically just moving around the world, existing according to the circumstances of his or her birth, and guided by their demonic self, even if it's unconscious. So this is the shaping of a person based on all the life experiences, all the interactions. The beliefs that they have, that they like come to have, are gathered at random, just depending. This is the kicker and the big part, though. The first stage, this first stage that we're talking about, this wandering stage, technically, this is just life. Like, this is life, right? Most people, this is just all that it is, ever. According to Webb, 5%, and I can't vouch for his numbers, but according to him, 5% of humanity has the capacity to avoid regression and move out of this stage. Regression is what's going to happen when people come into contact with new stressful environments, experience traumatic events, get stuck in cycles of mindsets like victimization, etc. Then they're going to regress. So now they're regressing not only past like whatever their egoic self is running around doing, but they're regressing to more primitive behavior: drinking, drugs, sex, binge eating, shopping, mind-numbing TV, mind-numbing scrolling, sleeping a lot, etc. Avoidance, making excuses, and essentially staying asleep. They're just existing, and hardly. So the 5% that Webb is talking about take the stressors, the fire, so to speak, and they use it to begin to move into a more complex system of behavior. Now they're fighting to wake up despite the obstacles, and they might not even know that they're fighting to wake up. They might not even realize, but there's something inside them that is fighting to wake up despite those obstacles. You have to remember that the world, the system, and your own ego itself don't want you to. That I just looked up to that and that was terrifying. Don't ever do that again. I'm really glad I don't have my glasses on. Okay, so you got that? That's the first stage. You're wandering around, you're aimless, you're just existing. You might be regressing, you might not. Hopefully you're not.
And I think real
Second,
quick, hold
go
on,
ahead.
going to that, I would say that like if you want to see that live in action, guys, like, and I had a reminder of this yesterday, and it can be small reminders to big ones. All you have to do to see that most of the world is just surviving and just kind of going off of their base hungers, like Natasha was saying, you know, drinking, sex, drugs, just existing even, and just running around this aimless state is,
Lemmings.
you,
Lemmings.
you know, just stay away from the city for a while, right? And then go into the city. What you'll see is as soon as you go in, you start to notice all the people, and you're like, most of these people like seem fucking miserable. You know what I mean? Like I went in the city the other day for work. It was 9:30 in the morning, and I seen girls in like 2-inch long shorts, dressed completely slutty as could be, walking around like they were trying to get a hookup. You know what I mean? And it's 9:30 in the morning. Like, not saying that that can't be on your mind at 9:30 in the morning, but Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning in downtown city, you know, it's like, okay, this is kind of weird. Then you see the people just kind of wandering around looking high as shit, other people drunk and staggering. And it's like, man, 9:30 in the morning, this is your priority and what you got going on. You have nothing in your life. And the thing is most people will tell you, even when they're in that state, oh, I'm not miserable. I'm not sad. I like life. No, you don't, bro, because I used to be there myself in an endless state of partying. And, you know, and when I met my wife, I was in a stage where like I was partying a ton. I was drinking a ton. I was sleeping with anyone I could sleep with. And she had told me when we first met and started talking to each other, she's like, you're not happy. And I was like, yeah, I am. And I actually believed I was. And it wasn't till a long time later when I started to do good and actually progress and change my life that I looked back on my life and I'm like, damn, bro, you were so unhappy. You hated yourself and you hated life. Sometimes when you're in the thick of the fog, you don't even see it. But when you
Mhm.
walk away from it and look, you're like, holy shit, it's a stormy night. You know what I mean? Like you can't see the forest from the trees, as they say. And I think that's a big part is you'll notice people all around you that are just existing. You might even be one of them, but you won't notice it until you start taking the steps that
Mhm.
Natasha's going to talk about to break free of that.
But I also think it's a good point because even in that first wandering stage, I would personally say, like from a psychological level, that one of those steps out of the wandering stage is that being able to step outside of it, look at it, and be like, oh shit, maybe I should be doing something different. So, no, I think that's a good point. All right, second stage, shock. Now, this is so there's some different shock stages that happen. This is shock number one. Something happens demonstrating the falsity of appearances. This is going to look different for everyone. This could be the loss of a job. This could be the loss of a relationship. This could be, you know, um, a death somewhere. It could be a million different things. And the level of shock, I would interject, is going to depend on each person, how badly that shock hits you. Because as I like to tell people, one person's 10, as far as like what they can take, is different from another person's 10. So it all just depends on what your chart level would be for shock. But the nature of the shock isn't what's important. The point is, and the importance is that it's big enough that it completely knocks the person off the path in life that they were following. Okay. So many people, Webb says, don't have this happen. Of course, we all go through things. That's life. But many don't have this event that actually changes the course of their life. They are, they are not marked to be initiates, according to him. And most people, even if they have that shock happen, a lot of times they never recover from it. They might end up back in that cycle of regression. They fall deeply asleep to the point where they can't be brought back from it. And they end up passing any demonic material through like their children, family spirits, etc. The initiate, and that's the key, does not fall completely asleep after this shock happens. It might knock them off balance. It obviously distorts the course of their life, but they don't fall asleep. Me personally, I was able to relate to that with the car accident that I was in when I was 18. I've talked about it before on here and in other things, but it obviously altered the course that I was on for my life. So, third stage, daydreaming. It sounds pleasant. It's sort of pleasant. And a lot of people get stuck in this stage. There's all kinds of quicksand everywhere. So the initiate begins a regression into a fantasy world while they are rebuilding their own world from the event that knocked them off the path. Desires are awakened and they may seek out things that resonate with them. They might start dabbling in the occult. They might find alternative lifestyles. They are restructuring the identity of themselves. So most people are going to remain right here, like I said. These are the people that are frequent, I can't speak, frequent, oh my God. They're going, they're going to the cool coffee shops, to the occult stores, to the latest concerts. They're buying all the sweet crystals. They're picking up other identity hobbies, basically. However, some are overtaken by the desire and begin to break out of the socially constructed cage that has been holding them. That's the important part. They start a band, they start writing, they open a business, they join a political movement. Open a business obviously resonated with me. So as I was following my own timeline, right? And the key is they have success despite the odds being against them, like opening a left-hand path shop in a small Midwestern PA town. So this like event of the success happening for them, that's the discovery that all things are possible. Oh shit, I can do something, right? I can do something outside of the norm, outside of the status quo, outside of what I've been told my life is supposed to look like, etc. So all things are possible when willed, as in capital. These are the majority of occultists right here in this section. And many initiated left-hand practitioners get like stumped as to why, when they've taken a step or two like in the right direction, they don't fully awaken. They get stuck right here in this stage. Some sorceress skills are developed here. Some do awaken, and then they continue on to stage 4, which is another shock. We're on shock 2 now. So in this shock, all at once, the initiate discovers that there are great possibilities outside of the life that they currently lead. Some examples of that could be they read a book that triggers something, triggers past life regression, triggers an understanding that they didn't have. They go into a meditation that triggers some sort of regression, an understanding that not regression, backwards, and something that they didn't have. They experience some manifestation of their own demonic self, like they're able to connect with something on a higher level, and they're like, oh shit. Or they meet a talented practitioner who resonates with them, that then draws them farther down the path. Or they already know one, and suddenly that person extends an invitation. But while this shock is good, we'll put that in quotes, this is now actually a time of great danger for the initiate. Because number one, the individual realizes that the world does not work in ways fully explained by rational science. And number two, the human world is not organized as mainstream media would want you to believe.
Question for you on those stages before you go further. So too far along. So it says this. So this reassembly has to be manifested. It won't just happen, but the event triggered the path change or choice to change, right?
So it won't just happen. You do have to do the work in it. Because that first shock that happens, Bob, that's the one that like it wasn't in your control. It was just something that happened. And then that sends you into the third stage, which is that daydreaming stage. That daydreaming stage is where that manifestation is going to become really important. And I wouldn't even use the term manifestation, but that is part of it. But that action, taking those actionable steps in order to see through what it is that you want to see through, what it is you feel drawn to. Because in that stage, if you're able to do that in that third stage, you're going to realize your will. You're going to realize what happens when you assert your will. You're going to realize the type of power that you may have where you might have felt powerless before. Does that make sense?
I think it does.
Okay. Okay. So the human world's not organized as mainstream media would want you to believe, right? So the world doesn't work in ways that are fully explained by science. And also society as a whole is coming up with a bunch of bullshit that is not necessarily true. So the danger here is the tendency to throw away all logic and reason and become obsessive in some form of like over interest. So that could be the occult, that could be UFOs, that could be conspiracies, that could even be like fad diets. And you're welcome, Bob. Trust me when I say that when you're already running an occult shop, the danger here in this stage is a lot greater because it's so consuming. You're not going to a regular 9 to 5, right? This is now all of your life. But a lucky few have their powers of skepticism and asking all the questions, and their demonic selves are balanced enough so that they have the ability to find a school. Those who are lost at this level spend their days tearing apart the fabric of reality and really don't go very far. But I mean, some of them seem really happy doing it. So the pieces are good, Addie. I'm glad. 5th stage. There's 7. All right. So we're on 5. 5th stage. A school. Every school consists of 4 elements. Consistent metaphysics. So meaning it's consistent. They're not switching things all over the place on you. Teachers, which are actual living men and women who have bettered themselves by applying the school's ideas in a variety of real life circumstances. A variety of students from all walks, nationalities, etc., because that allows the system to be tested, so to speak. And 4, they must provide resistance. So there has to be gradual steps or grades of mastery throughout this school. Now, if the chemistry is correct, meaning that the school provides enough challenge and friction, coupled with enough useful knowledge, and the seeker provides magical curiosity and hard work, then the seeker awakens. These seekers, the ones that awaken, become fiercely protective of the school. And by their being, by what they've become, by what they're turning into, they become a walking advertisement for it. Here's the final cherry on top of the stage, though. In connecting with the teacher, the student begins projecting the qualities that the student wants onto said teacher. If these qualities are in fact part of the teacher's actual makeup, the magical process of learning begins, as well as the mundane process. Basically, that's where shit can get really wild. And then, as the student comes to a certain stage of their being, their striving enables them to connect with the teacher within. So what's the saying about the student becoming the master or whatever, even though we don't like the word master? It's that right there. That's the sign of a true school. Now, some students pass into direct interaction with the Dark Lord in a method akin to what was described, basically saying some students of some schools don't actually have the physical human teacher. It might be coming straight from the spirit themselves. At this point, the school becomes a place for them to share their techniques of awakening, therefore setting the whole system into play. And basically, what I just described could also be called the Coterie of Samil on some level. But we aren't done, because no school is as good as its idolized model, which leads to the next phase, which is your 3rd shock. So in this page, the student learns that his or her teachers are, in the long run, still human. They become aware of the great tragedy of initiation and initiates, which is that when initiates screw up, they do so on a bigger scale than regular folk. Now, they start deflecting. The teacher has to be corrupt. They're out to get them. They're paranoid. They've been lied to, manipulated, set up. I would also like to add that I believe other forces can come into play here, trying to knock the initiate off the path. And, or even worse, they become predatory in some like petty way, right? Turning from sovereign and seeking sovereignty into seeking out weaknesses in others and then rather than preserving their own strengths. So they're basically like, look how big and bad. This is the predatory spiritualism, basically. This stage is where many who have almost made it are going to fall. You can see this in many of the supposed left-hand path leaders, in my opinion, in a lot of schools. But those who survive this stage are at the finish line, because the 7th stage is the work. If they come out of this, if they're able to recover from this shock, if they're able to work through it and come out above it, the initiate takes on the issue of world change, even if in the smallest ways. They maintain a link to their school and a presence in the various communities that they've now become involved with as they've come into their being. And then they rise. They create a life that is uniquely satisfying to them, and they're in the state of continual growth. So I know that was a lot. I'll let Pro go into it and answer any questions, but for those of you that know me, you'll see how over the last 6 years, the majority of those steps have been played out right in real life time in front of you guys for me. So that's what I got on the 7 stages, and we'll do the vices and the virtues after you give me some feedback and thoughts.
Oh, before we give you
comments
and thoughts, let's go into this comment. This one has a typo in it, so we need to make sure we read it correctly. It says, does school have to involve actual other people, not just entities in research? And if so, how does one go about finding the right one?
So Hunter, in his description of it, school does need to involve people. It does need to involve actual human teachers that you are working with. However, he does have that caveat that says in some, and I would say very rare cases, let me say this correctly. I'm not talking about like, you've just been working with Hecate, or you've just been working with Lilith, or you've been working with Asmodeus, or anyone, any entity, right? When he talks about initiation teaching through like the Dark Lord himself, those are like rare cases where people have very incredible early on experiences and have this immediate connection with the entity that then involves the rest of the teaching. So I hope that that's like explaining it right, because I don't want to say or take away from what you can learn from entities and working with entities. But in this context, personally, he's talking about real life people, with the exception of that type of interaction. And in that type of interaction, that usually leads to the person that had that interaction then sharing that awakening process and helping others grow from it. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, there's some different perspectives to take in here, Hunter. You can grow tremendously on your own, doing self-study, self-practice, and you can make that your entire life. There's a lot of solitary sorcerers, solitary practitioners out there.
Absolutely.
But the part that you're missing is versifying yourself. And what I mean by that is by entering a house, by entering a coven, a coterie, a lodge, a fraternity, a temple of sorts. You're often subjected to people of all different backgrounds, cultures, understandings, ages, preferences, both in life, sexuality, all kinds of things. So maybe you're someone who's very open, maybe you're not, and that'll help open you up. But the important thing here is you're getting different perspectives. So as you're learning a common subject and common practices, all of you, you're all seeing it from different, this is the term that you'll hear Crow use all the time, places of pivot. So you're seeing a lot of different places of pivot, a lot of different perspectives of how someone centers and anchors their life and their viewpoint. So now as discussions happen, because not only are you researching and studying as a group and practicing as a group and doing rituals, you're then comparing notes of your experiences and their experiences on individual rituals, on group rituals, and so forth. And then you're having discussion boards. So you're talking, whether it's over a meeting in person, whether it's over a virtual meeting, whether it's over exchanging notes, you're looking at things and seeing viewpoints and hearing from people that might be very different than how you've seen the operation. But now you have a very different perspective of it and say, wow, I never thought of it that way. And if you would have never interacted with these other individuals, you yourself never would have seen it that way because you operate only in your place of pivot. A sorcerer, an adept should learn to jump to multiple places of pivot in life in their own right. But until you learn how to swing the pendulum into different places of pivot, you need to, within your place of pivot, hear and see others. And that is why a lodge and a school and a fraternity and all these different things are so incredibly important. And not only that, sometimes people are going to question you. You're going to say something, they're going to say, I don't agree with you. And you can't be the little butthurt fucker that's like, oh, well, they don't fucking agree with me. Fuck them. I hate this, blah, blah, blah. No, you need to learn, like, okay, well, why is it you don't agree with me? And what is your perspective?
Right.
And they say something that shell shocks you, and you're like, oh, wow. Maybe they just proved you wrong. Maybe they pointed out a weakness, a frailed or a loose part of the chain mail that you have. Your armor is weak in a spot. Instead of being offended by it, that person who just exposed it did you a favor so that you can mend it. So that when you're out with people who aren't your colleagues, who aren't your brothers and sisters of the fraternity, you are strong and someone else doesn't notice it. That is why a school is so incredibly important. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll turn it back over to Natasha, is working with spirits. They will lead you to the right people. If you're truly doing the work and you're doing it sincerely, honorably, and paying reverence and respect to your spirits, you will find yourself falling into the lives and others falling into your life that you need to have in your life at the right time. If you haven't found it yet, but you are sincerely doing the work, it's just that you're not ready for it yet. And that's true. You can say, well, it's been years and I haven't found them. Then you need to either fix your work because it's not working properly, or it just hasn't been your time and there's no set work. Someone might find that group of people when they're 20. Someone might not find that group of people till 2 years before they die and they're 75 years old. It doesn't have a clock for everybody that works the same. Everybody's path is individual. We all got pieces to play and our puzzles are all fit together when they're supposed to, but stick steady to the work hard, do it sincerely. And I guarantee you, you will find the right people when you're supposed to.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. And I do think, like, according to Webb's system or Webb's like way of discussing it here, it does have to be a person because he places so much emphasis on that teacher and that uh, learning relationship with the teacher. So like you're projecting those desired qualities onto the teacher, right? That was part of it. And then when the other shock comes, you realize that the teacher is in fact not, you know, perfection, that they are in fact human. And so all of those things come into play too when you're going through it.
I agree. And there's one other thing I'm going to throw out here in a minute, but I want to read this comment. Hunter dropped a bigger one and it's not all going to come up on the screen. So I'll read it. It says, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So say I've had an experience like that at a much earlier age that exceeds that normal basic experience most have with entities. I've been searching for a group or school, so to speak, since that I can relate to in these experiences. This group in Natasha's works are the closest I've found to me locally so far through the years, but I don't always know how to find these groups to compare, as you put it. Most of my work has kept me solo through the years. I do keep getting led back by several guides to be told that this is the time to start branching out. Well, if you're being told it's the time, then you need to start branching out. But don't just go with the first school that you know that's close to you, that's somewhat resonant. You have to search. Searching is a big part of that path, is looking around at what resonates. And it might not be local. Don't feel it has to be physically close to you. You could find a group across the world that does Skype meetings, that does curriculum that they send to you and you have to read it and report back, as I said earlier. It doesn't, don't get caught up on the needing to be person to person. Yes, that is nice, but we live in a world where that's not always going to be possible, especially with different paths and praxis out there. So look around and find what resonates with you. But the biggest part of your battle is to find what resonates with you. Because as she talked about in the earlier stages of initiation, that stage where you're kind of finding your identity, that's a long stage for a lot of people. That's an endless stage for a lot of people. It's like the Satanists out there. I like to make fun of them. It's like the Satanists out there who wear the dark clothing and the pentagrams and run around and yell hell Satan, and they tell everybody they're Satanist. And when you say, well, like, what is it you believe? And they don't have an actual belief system. They're like, well, I'm a Satanist. Well, why are you? Because like I'm rebelling against the system and fuck Christianity, bro. I'm a Satanist. And I'm like, no, dude, you're just an angry man in a fucking pentagram shirt. Like you're not saying anything. Like you're an anarchist who's taken on the role of fucking, you know, Satanist. You are the satanic temple. You're nothing. Like
I was just gonna say, because they paid their $25, and I can say that because I too paid my $25 years ago when I was running around being angry.
Well, and it's like, you know what it's like when you meet those people, it's like, well, listen, bro, I actually am a real Satanist. And if you want, I'll cut you out a fucking card and laminate it. You give me that $25, I'll make you a real one right now. But
maybe
I mean,
we should be doing that. Maybe we're missing out on a whole lucrative income.
you're missing out. So Hunter, just don't be afraid to keep looking and don't think it's always going to fall into line when you want it to. Like I said, it's going to fall when it's supposed to. But if you feel the calling that you're supposed to be doing this search, don't squander that and keep searching. Now, another comment came in from Sarah and it says, I've been screwed over by so many teachers, getting too old for this shit. Natasha's intuitive witchcraft class was the first time I was actually taught by someone who knew their shit. Well, and this is kind of a sidetrack point, Sarah, but thank you so much for that comment. I wanted to mention this earlier, and then that comment kind of came up, which was perfect, is don't feel that your teacher, if you find one, has to be and is going to be your teacher forever. I want to give a shout out to old guests of mine. I had some guests on my show, The Knights of the Nephilim, a couple times who, when I discovered their work, read their books, started talking to them, they gave me some pointers and helped me in a lot of ways. And that is Baron and Baronessa Aragni. And they had a post that they put up one time that kind of years ago threw me off when I read it, like in a good way. And they had mentioned that don't be afraid to let go of your gods when the time is no longer right for you to work with them. And I'm like, what? Like, no, you stay honored to your gods forever. And their whole article was about the fact that some of your spirits that you work with are going to help you tremendously and put you right where you need to be when you need to be there. But that is all the further that spirit can take you in life. You can continue to work with them, make offerings to them, but they did a humongous step in your progression to put you right where you needed to be. It's like the mama bird getting you big enough to fly and then booting you out of the nest. And it's like you either fly or you die. Fly or die, you pick. But I can no longer be your mama bird. Like you go fly and live your life. We're not going to see each other again. And that's a big thing. And people need to understand it, whether it is your spirits or whether it's your mentor, some will be with you for life. But there's others you'll meet who will make a tremendous impact in your life. And it might be 1 month, it might be 1 year, it might be 10 years, so be it. But sometimes then you will break free of that and find other mentors, other teachers, or become the teacher yourself. Don't be afraid to fly, guys.
Right. Yeah, whether it's human or spirit, sometimes everybody has their part for that time. And I was gonna say, as soon as you started talking about it, I was gonna say, you guys can ask Crow how distressed I was when the spirit that had shown up and then left after a year, when I realized he had gone and didn't even say goodbye. Yeah, so, but it's because that work was done, that time period that I needed was over. So you have to be able to gracefully let things go when the time is ended.
I think you do. Absolutely. And we got a comment here. It says, there is always a scam or distraction. I am new territory. and I did not think I would be working with demons exclusively. Totally true. I still talk to a mentor, and you should have a mentor. It's always good to have a
Yeah,
coach because you can bounce your
absolutely.
ideas across, because you might start to really think you're coming up with some shit. You're writing down a bunch of notes and you're like, I got this figured out. And then you talk to someone who's been doing this 20 times longer, who has a lot more experience, and they're like, no, you're fucking way off track right now.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you can't have your own thoughts and maybe you discovered something that they haven't, but there's also a fine line. This is another Crow quote. There's a fine line between delusion and discernment. You know, you're walking that line. It's just a wind can blow and you fall into delusion and you think you're having it happen, and no, you're just insane. Or you fall into discernment and you're really analyzing things and not just believing everything that happens. It's like the paranormal. Not everything that goes bump in the night is a spirit,
Yeah.
but don't also believe that everything is not.
Yeah.
You have to decipher, you have to have discernment, but don't fall into delusion, because so many people, and Brian, this goes out to you right now. So many people work the Sitrakra and they work the Klapothic spirits, as I know you're currently doing. And I know that it is a very hard process to go through, and as you go through it again and again, it's deeper and deeper. What I will tell you is I have known many people who have snapped and they're never been right again. I'm talking batshit crazy. Some of them are just a little off, and some of them are like you can't even talk to them. And some of them feel that they're geniuses, and maybe somehow they are in some crazy way, but most of the time they believe they're geniuses, and really they're just insane. And that's what it does, is working certain type of frequency, certain vibrational elements are going to either make you and break you, or make you or break you, sometimes both. But make you or break you. And if they break you, that breaking can be harming you, killing you, or just destroying your mind. And
Yeah.
that happens a lot. So you have to have and walk that fine line between delusion and discernment, and try to stick to the discernment side. Um,
Yeah.
because a lot of people end up swaying the other way and just going full bore crazy.
And I was going to say, it's good to have, it's obviously good to have a teacher. If you can find a school, if you can find a teacher, that is a mentor, that is good to have. And whether you're going to different ones or you stick with one for life, either way. But it's also really good to have, that group of people around you that can help with that delusion and discernment the same way a teacher can, especially if you don't have a technical teacher that can be like, okay, like I can be on board with what you're saying here, but like over here, you are way out in left field, and like I think you need to reel it back or check yourself or whatever. I am constantly, keeping myself in check with the work that we do. And we have a joke with like, a small group of us about like if I'm ever too far off, they're just gonna, the code word is ice cream. We're going to Dairy Queen, and like I need to get out of the circle for a minute. Um, but on that same note, I think it's really important while we're talking about it to state that you also can have a group that then becomes more harmful than helpful to that, because they can start feeding into you, and then they're just going to completely snowball effect. And you see this a lot on social media, especially like these TikTok accounts and Instagram accounts and stuff. So you have to be cautious on both. That's all I'm saying. I'm done.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to think if there's any other big points. Like I said earlier, a lot of people lose themselves in that stage trying to find themselves. It's funny, trying to find yourself, you
Mhm.
lose yourself. And
Yeah.
you will notice that people that change like completely, like they were one day a normal person, next day they are covered from head to toe in black. Their fingernails are black. They dye their hair black. They got on all these crazy pieces of jewelry. They start talking different, acting different, and they're trying to find themselves. But what happens a lot of times they don't. Then they jump to another fad and another fad and another fad.
Right.
Like, where am I? Like, where am I out there? I've been searching for me for so long that I've gotten further away from where I think I might have been.
Yeah. And that's the people that get stuck in that daydreaming, that stage 3. That's right there.
They can
So do you want to, we can do the vices. Would you like to
Yes,
hear some vices? All right.
absolutely.
Okay. So I believe there's 7 of them, but these are some of the vices that you might find when working this process of initiation. Okay. Um, Narcissism. You see this a lot on the left-hand path because of the tendency to misunderstand what it means to say the focus on self. It's not about self-worship, it's about self betterment. It's about sovereignty. What good, I liked one of his like examples here. What good does it do for the clay if the sculptor is just going to worship it as a mound of clay, right? It's like, oh, look at you, you mound of clay. Like, you're so good and you're so big and you're so brave and you're so strong and you just do all these amazing things. And the clay is just a ball of clay sitting there. No, the sculptor needs to mold it, to craft it, to create it, to better it. So you can guard against being sucked into the narcissism of it by having humor. Humor's so important. A willingness to apologize, a willingness to admit when you're wrong or when it did not work the way that you thought it would. And anytime, this one's really important, anytime that you find yourself in a bad situation, in a situation that you were unhappy with, you need to ask yourself, how did my actions contribute to this? There's your accountability. Okay? So those are ways to steer away from the narcissism. Hubris is number 2. So because the left-hand path initiate has access to mental states that most of his fellow humans don't, we can come to, or he can come to believe that all his actions are justified, his truths are the universal truths, etc. So you can guard against this by being associated with powerful, smart people who make you realize how much you still have to learn. As we like to say, always a student, always learning, always growing.
I want to real quick. I want to jump in. I think that's
God.
important because if you hang out with dumbasses, like if all your friends and the people you hang out with are stupid and you are the smart one, it's easy to get wrapped up in the fact that you are now king of the dumbasses. And you can walk around, everybody treats you special because you're special, right? I'm the smart one. Yeah. And you can like that, but that isn't going to make you smarter because then eventually you get lazy because you're like, well, I don't have to do much more because I'm already smart. But you want to do the opposite. You want, and this is crazy to say, guys, you don't want to surround yourself by dumbasses. You want to be the dumbass. You want to be the stupidest one in your group while aiming to be the smartest. Because if you have that hunger of looking up to the people around you, you surround yourself by successful, well together people who are very intelligent, who are very powerful in their practice. You want to learn from them. You want to see how they're doing what they're doing. How do you refine yourself? And you continue to grow and they continue to grow. You're always going to be hungry for it. You're always going to be aiming to be the best, but you're always surrounded by greatness. When you do the opposite, like I said, a lot of times that lower vibration is going to pull you down. You're going to end up falling off path and not doing it, or you become the cult of personality, and I've seen that term earlier, which is funny because that is such a powerful term that I've seen over the years. And that's what it is. You become the guy. It's like, well, you know what? I can gather up enough of these dumbasses and make them worship me and I can be their God. Yes. And that's great. If you want to form a true, like shitty cult and you want to go form one of those ones that doesn't fucking do anything and you're the Messiah, you do that. But you know what? Like as Magus of the Coterie of Samil, I tell everyone in my group and everyone in the outer order that I am a student just like them. And we say, question everything, including us. And I am, on my first day, eager and hungry to learn just like you. There's a different mentality there. I'm always trying to better myself and learn. And I don't have that God complex, that narcissism that people have. You need to humble yourself so that you can keep growing, because if you don't have that humility, you will get that God complex and it stifles your growth.
I was going to say, as October tattooed on my arm years ago, be humble.
Be humble.
Smiley face.
Be humble. Be the dumbass.
Get some Kendrick Lamar going. Okay. So
hold on, we got a bunch of comments coming.
Oh my gosh, I see them. Okay, go ahead, put them up.
Hey, Frater and Natasha. Well, hello. Just getting here. Well, welcome and thank you for tuning in. Kelvin says the eternal student is the way to go. We 100% agree. Knox Arcanum put laugh out loud. I'm not sure which part, but it might have been to just be the dumbass, and that's what people should be. Addie said, since we're talking schools and being a dumbass, are there any recommendations on metaphysical schools just for like a good foundational basic information? I keep buying the books and reading, but I'd like a slightly more class setting almost would be a beneficial. The ADHD swirl is real.
So Addie, when we're talking schools, we're not talking like a class setting. We're talking, I mean, I guess you could call it a class setting, but don't take school so literally. School is more like a group, or like a an order, or like a, you know, something that you initiate into on your own. Like, aside from this like left hand path initiation, it could be like a strict initiation into a group. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but there's tons of like programs and classes that you can take on metaphysics and, you know, witchcraft and all of that stuff. And there's tons of people I know that have their, what did I call it before? Patron. What's it called? Parkour, whatever the P word is. But they have like their,
Patreon?
yeah, that. Not the Patron. Uh, they have their like schools that you can go through. Technically, you know, some of the courses that I ran you could consider a school, but that is more of a class. Like, it's, your question, in my opinion, to this doesn't have a crystal clear answer, and you can
There,
disagree if you want.
there are places out there that you can try to do that kind of hybrid of what you're saying, Addie. Like, for example, Knights of the Nephilim season 5, first guest is John Vermillion and Orly Stewart. John Vermillion is working on finishing up some classes right now. John Vermillion already has the Violet Gateway, which is a place where you can go and purchase his courses, where he does send videos, he does teach, he does do Q&As. You can have one-on-one sessions with him, and he will teach you magic. It is extremely detailed, hardcore, um, difficult magic, but he's going to teach you a foundation that'll be vital to you. But it's going to cost, because it is very valuable information. It's a real classroom of sitting, but it's not going into a classroom. It's going to be virtual. You're going to sit with him. There are other teachers out there that do that. Jason Miller has wonderful classes. Jack Grell has wonderful classes.
Mm-hmm.
Delamine Ra, who will be a guest on this coming season as well of Knights of the Nephilim, has classes. There are a lot of folks out there that do have them, that you can learn things. They're usually one-offs, though. It's on a certain subject. Like, let's say it's
Right.
Hecate. Well, okay, you have a course on Hecate from start to finish, and then it's done. And
Right.
then you go for something else where they're not going to teach you a lot of, some are just overall basics. So you can look, if you ever have questions, you can reach out to us. You know, I have a lot of different people that offer different courses, but it's going to be a lot of study on your own. So listen with the class, do it on your own, come back and compare notes.
Mm-hmm. And down, you know, the direction is always open for us with where we're going down the road. So
Can you leave a link to be able to reach out to him? I don't know which one you're talking to. Maybe John, probably. I'm guessing it's hard to tell sometimes when the comments come in. Reach out to me.
hi, Gabe.
I can definitely let you know. Laughed at when you said "be the dumbass." Oh, it's Gabe. Okay, yes, yeah, be the dumbass, man. It's
Yeah.
always the best way. Demonic parkour. I love it. Um, all right. And then Stacy said, I always follow the advice that you become who you surround yourself with.
Oh
So that
yeah.
makes so much sense. And lastly, Trevor says that resonates with me because I was always told or taught when playing sports to always play up so that you can learn from those more experienced players.
Absolutely.
You got, like I said, you have the different mentality. You might want to be the best player in the team because you're going to get noticed by more people, right? But then are you really the best? When you go to this other, you think you are for years, and then they throw you on the team of all the really great players, and they're all just as good as you. So you're like, well, I'm really not that fucking good at all. I'm average to everybody else on the team. Whereas if you would have been with them from the get-go, maybe you would shine amongst the best and really, put yourself in the right places. I don't want to distract you anymore. Go into the third vice.
Thank you for saying third so that I know where I am. All right. Forgetfulness of past orthodoxes. So this is getting stuck in old patterns. This is, you know, you are supposedly recovering from Christianity and you become a Satanist. Now you're looking at Samael as a loving God figure, which like you're misplacing based on old orthodoxes. Webb didn't say this, but I would say that this is the section where you're going to talk about those ingrained religious hooks, those ingrained issues from whatever religion did you wrong. Um, the way to get past this, the way to rise above this, is to test yourself. and to ask others to test you. So if you're showing ingrained thought patterns, if you're, backpedaling, if you're going, if those hooks are showing, to have people call you out on it, basically. Number 4 is despair. So this is the pit of despair. This shit is immense. Self-change is immense. It is easy to get overcome with despair. So if that happens, if you get completely sucked into that black pit, initiation stops. You're not moving. You're not going anywhere. You got to keep a certain amount of pleasurable challenges, is how he put it, in order to keep the self drawn in and motivated. So, you know how we joke all the time about like, this shit isn't fun, like we're having like the best time, it's not fun or whatever. You have to keep enough pleasurable, good, deep experiences so that it's not all horrible. Because
True.
so you gotta throw that in there sometimes. That way you keep yourself motivated. And then the next one would be attachments to the thoughts of another. So this is something that you gotta watch out for too when you're taking courses or learning from people or training in schools of thoughts, because when you have your eyes open to the fact that the world is very different, and it's very different than society would have you believe, it is super tempting to just embrace the first coherent thought and get sucked right into that. And then what you do is you stop thinking on your own, and it just becomes a memory and repetition game with whatever thought pattern you decided to follow, whatever person. This right here, as I like slam my hand in my lap, is why we say question everything, including us. The initiate has to approach things with a bit of a mental force field. This could be helpful to me, but what do I think about it? Because if you do not approach it with your own brain, then you are just as bad as wandering around at stage 1 as a little lemming walking off the cliff. Does that make sense? Because that one's important.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense, and that's why
Think for yourself.
we do say question everything, because the first time that you come into contact with a mentor, a leader, a teacher, a magus, whatever the hell they call themselves, and you're vibing with them, you start to learn things, and then you're like, I got questions, and you start questioning things, and they don't allow you to ask questions. And I'm not even saying question
Mhm.
them. I'm saying just questions, and they don't want to answer your questions.
Or
That's a red
can't,
that's a red flag, or can't answer your questions. Now, sometimes they might not know everything, of course, but if like they
but they
don't
can
seem to know
find
the
the
answer,
answer.
or yes, they could find it. But if they don't know the answers to your questions, they're not willing to find it. They get angry when you ask questions. Or on the adverse side of that, you are questioning them. Like I have an idea from what you said. Have you ever thought about, and you like kind of, I don't want to say question them in a rude way, but you're just throwing a different perspective, and they shut you down. Absolutely not. And they're not even willing to consider it. That's a red flag, folks. That's a flag that something's wrong here, and you need to pull the ejector cord and get the fuck out, because a
Mm,
teacher should be able to take in your questions. They might listen to it and say, "No, that's ridiculous." And here's why, though. Here's why that's
mhm.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
No one should ever be offended by being questioned, as long as you're not an asshole about it. If you come at me as your teacher and you're just a complete dick, well, then yeah, I might get kind of pissy with you. But if you come to me sincerely, hey, Crow, I have a couple questions if you don't mind. I know you said this, but I always kind of seen it as this. Well, then I'm
Mhm.
going to go ahead and have a conversation with you as adults. We're going to have a conversation. But if I ever, guys, and I'm being serious with this, if I ever, I'm like, nah, man, that's fucking stupid. Why would you ask me that? And I'm just a prick about it. Tell me, say you're an asshole, man, and screw you and your show and everything you do. And the reason I'm able to say that's because I never have done that, and I never will, because I just never
Yeah.
found, I never was that type of person. So stay humble, but also, like I said, be willing to question things.
Yeah. 100%. Think for yourself, not sheep. All right. Obsession with magic. That's your next one.
Never.
This get out of here. This path can eat someone's life away. Okay. There has to be a balance. There has to be a moderation. One of the ways to do this is, from Webb's suggestion, is to keep a journal, integrate magic into your real life. Um, do whatever he's doing with the tusks.
Magic.
Because that's not magical. I personally, especially like I said, with doing the shop and doing my practice, and it was very hard to have something that was not occult related. The movies. I know that sounds so silly, but like taking my daughter to the movies literally takes me out, and then it puts me in front of a movie, a story, or whatever in a darkened theater where I can like completely zone out, and for 2.5 hours or whatever, I am not doing anything except just zoned out on this movie or going to the woods, grounding, etc. But even that can be like linked back to magic. So like keep your balance, basically. Last one on the vices is emotional servitude. So you cannot be a slave to your mood. You cannot only practice when the mood is right. You miss out on hard, painful breakthroughs that are just as important as like those exciting aha moment breakthroughs. You have to be in control of your emotions. Do things that are difficult for the sheer power that it's going to give you over said emotions. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. I want to recapture on both of those. I kind of do 'em 2 at a time. I
Do
think
it.
it makes sense to save time. One, finding an outlet is absolutely vital, and, one of our mentors, someone who, has been tremendous to what we do, has been big on saying that, you can't all be dark and gloom. You have to find something that's light.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be what you consider a light practice, but this means find your outlet to be able to, if you're doing nothing but demonic work, if you're doing clepothic work, if you're doing vampiric work, you're doing all these different things, and you have nothing that's like of a reliever or a light, it's going to fizzle you out. And it might not at first,
Mm-hmm.
but it will. And so
Yeah.
for like me, for example, doing apothecary and plant work, I want to work, or I like to work with plants and making different things out of those plants, because in ritual, what do you need? You need oils, you need fumigations, you need ritual baths, you need different concoctions that are used in different spell casting. So if you can work with the plants, it's still going into your magic. So in my case, it's a little strange because it's not away from magic, but it's something you can sit with those plants and work with them, and it's beautiful. But you can find something, as Natasha said, going to the movies. It's good to have something just altogether outside of magic, because it is a lot. And then the next thing I would say, which is kind of funny, is I would say reading's mine. But what do I read? I read occultism all
Yeah.
day. So
I was gonna say we can't use reading. That
I
doesn't
really
work.
can't escape it, folks, but you should. You should try to escape it so you don't burn yourself out.
Yeah.
You need to have that outlet. And I go out and I hike and I do fishing and different things like that. I have not so much lately, but that is a big outlet for me. So
I
you do
scream
have.
in a band, so
She's in a
you
band.
know.
I used to be in music. I can't do it anymore, but it's nice to have that outlet. Now the second part you were saying, refresh my memory. What was the second one?
The emotion, you can't be a slave to your mood.
Yes. So point that I would like to make there is that if you were sick, like you're ill, don't go and do ritual. That's fine.
Correct.
Tired, it depends on what level of tired. Don't stay up to the next day, you're
And what
falling
you're
asleep at
doing.
work or wreck your car and die. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to be helpful. But don't always quit ritual because you're tired. Because if you do that, let me tell you, your lower self and outside exterior powers that be, because there are things that'll stop you from growth. There are natural things within the matrix, let's call it, that will hold you down from reaching your potential, whether it is yourself or something exterior to you that will pull you down. So time and time again, if you're willing to give in, oh, I'm tired tonight, I'm not going to do ritual. Well, guess what? A couple days when you go to do ritual, it's going to be like, well, I'm kind of tired again. I'm not going to do ritual again.
Right. It's
It's going to
real
be
easy.
really easy to fall into that trap. But it is okay every once in a while to say, like, I'm fucking nodding out right now. And if I stay up 2 hours to do this ritual, I'm not going to be able to go to work safely tomorrow.
Right.
Well, then, okay. But don't let that become a pattern. Just like, I just had a really long day. I'm really just frustrated and this and that. Take a couple deep breaths, man the fuck up, shut up, and go get in the ritual circle. Because
Right.
the reason why is, like Natasha said, you might be an hour away from a tremendous breakthrough in your life that you would miss all because I had a pissy day. Oh, I
Right.
I'm not in the mood today. Well, guess what? Maybe the fact that you're not in the mood is the exact fucking mood you need to be in to do this ritual.
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand.
Exactly.
Like, you can't always be rainbows and happiness. Like, I'm in such a fucking good mood to go do black magic today. Well, you know what? Sometimes maybe you shouldn't be, and you're like, man, my day has just been fucking frustrating. I'm on edge right now. And then you go do that ritual. And I'm not saying you have to pour anger into the ritual, but just being in a different vibration, all of a sudden, poof, something
Right.
insane happens to you. And you're like, holy shit, this has never happened. Test it. Be explorers of the ethereal and astral world. Be willing to try different things. Try different rituals when you're in different moods. Try them on different nights of the week. Try with different fucking offerings for the offerings. Try with different methods of conjuration. I feel that the world is too set on one thing. And it's okay if you're following a specific tradition and this is the way to do it, and like your teachers are telling you it has to be this way within context. Like if you're going into a school to be a purist grimoire magician, a purist ceremonial magician, then don't try to do anything outside the box, because that defeats the whole fact that you're trying to be a purist, right? They have a method to it. But don't be afraid if there's not, and your teachers are just in your own personal practice. You have that room to maneuver how you want. Try things, experiment. Don't be afraid. So many people are like, I'm afraid of fucking moving an inch this way or an inch that way, because what if I just do it, man? Yeah, there could be backlash in ways, but there can be backlash in regular everyday life for trying something new and it not working. Stop treating the spiritual that you can't try things and experiment and grow from it. You should be growing, and you can't grow if you do the same fucking thing all the time. You got to branch out.
Yeah. And that's, I was laughing because that takes us right into virtues. Because the first virtue is exactly what you were just saying. It is having magical curiosity. So true systems may have their broad outlines available in easy format, but finding out how things really work is the individual's job. Each answer is going to lead to 9 more questions. The quest of getting the answers is the path itself. And there's one. Oh, openness. We'll skip ahead to openness, because it's exactly what you were just saying. Magic opens doors. So you have the faith, you try the new things, you follow your intuition, you surrender. Surrender is super important, but openness is also a virtue. Quantifiable pride was the second virtue. So we live in a world that is actually relatively short on recognition, at least like true recognition. Yet as humans, we do long for it. We can take pride in our accomplishments, because you're out here doing the work, you're accomplishing these things. But, and here's the but, to avoid the trap of egotism, if you're mentioning like an accomplishment, if you're talking about something that you're proud of yourself for just completing or just doing, link it to the next achievement that you're striving for. So don't just be like, oh, let me list off all these awesome things that I did. You could be like, hey man, I just had like great success with this, I want to share it with somebody, but my next step is this. And they used like graduating with the dean's list or whatever, but now you're going to medical school. So there's 4 effects to that, right? It lets people know that you're a force, and then they're going to treat you accordingly. It plants an image in their minds of your success, and now they're unconsciously assisting in it, which could technically go the opposite way too, but I'm not going to get into that. You can know your worth, you have that internal validation, and it also reminds you of how far you still have to go, so it keeps you goal hungry. And I agree with all of those. Sense of humor. If you can't laugh at yourself, give up now, because shit's gonna get ridiculous. If you can't laugh at the world, it's gonna drive you insane. Laughter is the key. Laughter is a mark of your sovereignty. Moderation. Nothing outside of the self is essential and nothing is forbidden. So neither addiction nor abstinence are the answers of a person who rules his or her life. I liked that quote. Synthesis. Find tools in a variety of life experiences, whether it be art, music, fiction, movies, etc., And I personally would add, find it within the occult world too. So it's okay to bring different formats into your practice. We talk about it all the time. It's what we do. And then the last one was cunning, which is that you have an ace in the hole for any situation and you never have all your eggs in one basket. Basically, you know how to play the game.
I
And
agree.
that's it.
I think that's important. And while I discuss some of those folks, if you have any remaining questions, now would be the time to drop them in the chat. We will read them off in a few moments. I think sense of humor is, essential, as we talked about throughout tonight's episode. And like my thing is, everybody that's been watching me, all my different shows, my different broadcasts over the years, know how often I've brought up Don Juan and I've brought up Carlos Castaneda books. It's funny because Don Juan is a master sorcerer, Toltec sorcerer. And Carlos always talks about the fact of his sense of humor. He's always joking around and being jovial and laughing and being silly. And Castaneda doesn't know how to take him sometimes. Kind of like, what the hell? This dude just did shit that blew my mind. That's like so unreal that shouldn't happen. And I'm having a hard time even holding on to reality right now. I'm shaking. And he's over there laughing and cracking jokes. Like, why? And Don Juan tells him in the books, like, like, don't be so serious all the time. Don't just, have fun, laugh. And it reminds me of that because, like, once again, I can come back to the Satanist. And the reason I can pick on Satanists is because I am a devil worshiper. So being able to pick on my own, I think, meets more than me making fun of Christians and things, because anybody can make fun of their enemy. Can you make fun of, your own squad? So, when I see like the real nihilistic and anti-cosmic Satanists, you can be those things, but do you have to be so fucking sullen all the time? Like all day long, you're like fucking got this, like this fucking, what do they call it? Bitch face, resting bitch face. Like, and you never laugh at anything. And like somehow you project out that like it makes me tougher if I'm always angry looking, and if I'm always bitter and I'm always a naysayer and I'm always like gloomy and dark and no, man, like you're just fucking miserable to be around. Like that doesn't make you anything more in your practice. In fact, I think because you can't take any other mood than just bitch face, it destroys your practice. I think the fact that I can be dead fucking serious in the turn of a dime. Like I can go from laughing around being the life of the party to snap right into sorcerer mode, fucking dead serious, where the whole room goes silent and you feel an instant switch. And people are like, holy shit, it just got real quick. You should be able to be many things and play many hats, because if you are a master, you know how to be a master.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's like people are like, oh, my master persona is a dick. Well, good job, Dick. Like you're not a master. You're just an angry little man. And go be an angry man somewhere else, because I don't want to fucking see it. Like I said, you can be the biggest advocate for anti-cosmic, nihilistic, fucking telepathic magic in the world. It'd still be a fun guy, go into a room, make people laugh, have drinks with them, be the life of the party, and then still go back to those same ideologies and thoughts. You don't have to be the guy. We're trained to believe we have to be like one. Oh, he's dark and gloomy, so I have to be dark and gloomy. No, you can be the fucking cheeriest guy anybody ever met. You can be fucking Father Christmas, walking around, everybody's looking at you, and then meanwhile you're a dead serious practitioner.
Yeah.
People for some reason don't think that they can mix, and they certainly
Well,
can.
I think it's because they get trapped in the character. It's more character, but
yeah, it's
I
like
digress.
they build up into those higher levels of initiation while still clinging on to like that third level or whatever it is, where they're still trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
But instead of trying to find themselves, they feel like they found it and they just lock themselves in.
Right.
So, don't do that, guys. Be willing to be someone who enjoys life. And just like Natasha said, you can have reasons you stay abstinent and be an asceticist and be disciplined as fuck. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a drink from time to time. Doesn't mean you can't do this or that from time to time. Doesn't mean for that night you can't binge if you want to, but then go back to being stern. It doesn't have to be, I can never enjoy anything in life, and my discipline is being someone who fucking enjoys nothing. Or my discipline is, and a lot of Satanists, once again, they're like, indulge in everything you can, eat as much as you can, drink as much as you can, fuck as much as you want. Just indulge, live deliciously. And it's like, yeah, let's see how fucking successful these people are. Because if you're drinking all the time, fucking all the time, eating all the time, and just constantly, indulging,
You don't have any energy left for magic.
you have no energy left for magic. You're not doing the work, and you're probably not too successful in life, to be honest with you. So it's like, that's not really helpful. But then to abstain from everything, it's like, okay, well, I feel like I'm really mastered everything, but I fucking hate it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're a master, but you enjoy nothing in life. You're in a true prison. You end up becoming one of those nihilistic folks that are fucking got the fucking bitter beer face all the time. So try not to be either of those things. Let's look if there's any comments here. If you take life too seriously, you'll never get out alive. That's right. I agree. Adept. I can't adapt. I can't read tonight. Adapt or perish. I learned this lesson long ago. Yeah, you have to. You have to adapt to your surroundings and what's around you. So that's definitely true. I don't see any other comments coming in right now. We are almost at the 10:30 hour time zone, which is great. Lauren Romaine says super late, but hey guys. Hey Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Thank you for tuning in, and thank you all for tuning in this evening. As I said, we have 3 more episodes left. We will reveal what those episodes are coming soon, so stay tuned to our socials. Make sure you click the like, share, follow, subscribe, and share buttons. Like, share, follow, subscribe. I said share twice, so double that fucking button and get it out there. Let people see it and promote the show. We have had a great first season. Make sure you go back and catch any episodes that you've missed. We've got 3 more for you. And as an announcement, as I'm sure you guys have seen or heard, I am very excited to announce Knights of the Nephilim Season 5 coming back. I have, I think, 20 episodes planned, which is the biggest season by far. And I have the biggest names. It is a jam-packed season of just massively influential practitioners.
Yeah.
And not just from here in the States, folks. We're talking all over the world. I got people coming in from Australia, from the Netherlands, from Africa, from everywhere you can imagine. We got practitioners jumping on the show to talk to us about their practice, their path, their gnosis and understanding, their services, and really diving into some really deep content and conversations to share with you guys a lot of gems, just in general. So you'll get a lot of new knowledge and new things from that. And then obviously, like I said, we'll be planning a season 2 for this coming up at some point, where we're going to get into the heart of some diabolical conjuration. So thank you so much for tuning in this evening, for all of the love. And Natasha, why don't you finish us out with anything else you want to say?
I was just going to say that we really appreciate you guys being here for this first, season of the show. I hope that it has, whatever your practice may be, if you even have one, I hope that it has brought you food for thought, that it has brought you, new insights that you can take into your life in whatever way it's helpful for you. We really enjoy doing it. We enjoy, your continued involvement in the comment sections and getting, your words in too is important to us. Knights of Nephilim season is going to be awesome. I happen to know what the list is, and it's a good one. So you guys are going to love it. I know many people from the shop started listening to that show years ago. So look forward to that. Thank you guys. It's a late one. I see the last comments coming in. Thanks, Mom. Hi, Britt. And yeah, that's all I got.
All right, guys.
I'm dehydrated. I'm gonna go drink water.
Yeah, I'm really thirsty tonight. I down 2
I'm
bottles
thirsty.
of water right before here, and I still want another one. Real quick, I want to look at the calendar before we jump off here, just to make sure I'm right on weeks. So if things go right, we will be back on June 26th. That is 2 Thursdays from now, right? Or no?
Yeah.
You gave a look like it was not good.
No, I think you're good.
Okay, for now, we're going to say June 26th, 2 Thursdays from now, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same place, same time. And that'll be episode 11. And we'll go from there. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. I was about to say weekend coming up. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Celestial
Night,
Oddity
guys.
Radio and Coterie of Samil signing out. Take care.